So we're going to be starting a college football preview each week heading up to the season. We love college football here, right, guys? We just
Yeah, college
Yeah.
football's life.
Is Georgia going to three-peat? Well, we'll get to that later. We'll get to that later. But a quick disclaimer, we're doing the ACC this week, and we'll move to the other power conferences. Probably do a group of 5 week. We're still in the works with that. But just one disclaimer, we're putting together a video. It's going to be very in-depth, but we're not going to be probably able to cover every single team. But if you would like us to, comment on our Instagram, comment in the comment sections. We will give you in-depth analysis about your team if we miss you. Otherwise, we're going to try to go over as much as we can here. We got some questions. The first one I think is important when you think about it, especially a college football conference, is who are the players to watch? Because who's stepping up to the next level, potentially to the NFL, and who's going to carry in this conference? Jordan, dynamic players just first off right away. And just a sneak peek for everyone else, we're going to do dynamic players. We're going to do championship predictions. We're going to do big matchups leading up to the championship and a couple over/under win totals set by the sports betting markets. Do we think they'll go over? Do we think they'll go under? But anyways, players, big players to watch. Jordan, what do you think?
I think Will Shipley at Clemson is the first one to be mentioned. Clemson, you would think, is the favorite to win the ACC, and looking no further on Clemson's offense, Will Shipley is the player to watch on that offense. He might be the best player on that team.
Jake?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I think one player I might want to keep an eye on is obviously Clemson. Has been a powerhouse under Dabo Swinney, but last year and for a couple of the past couple of years, they've struggled at the quarterback position. They haven't found quite a rhythm yet. Cade Klubnik, can he step up? This is going to be his first full year starting. Can he step up to the plate? A lot of people do think he will, and Clemson's defense is elite, so that will take some pressure off. But Clemson needs better play at the quarterback position. They haven't really had the consistent play, I guess, at least since Trevor Lawrence. But they need to step up there. So that's the player I'm watching for right away. So we'll step to that important games leading up to the championship. Jordan, I'll go right back to what do you think?
The game that a lot of people have circled is that Florida State Clemson game on September 23rd, because that might be the first of two matchups between those two teams. Um, Maybe giving a little bit away with my conference championship prediction, but yeah, that that should be a great game.
Jake?
Yeah. I think the game I have circled here is the November 11th game between Miami and FSU. I think, it's always a great matchup when these two get together. Florida State won last year. Miami had won the following previous 3 years. So, yeah, that's the game I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to North Carolina and Clemson. Obviously Clemson's probably the favorite to win this division, so I'm looking towards Clemson matchups, North Carolina, FSU, Miami even. Can they basically stay above ground and beat those three teams and make it to the ACC championship in Charlotte?
No,
So to me, there's three, I guess, initial contenders in the ACC, but one of them who I'm later going to predict in my championship is not even on these contenders I'm going to list because I think it's going to get a little interesting in the ACC. But the three contenders I could see right off the bat are North Carolina, Clemson, and FSU. Those are the three contenders I see right off the bat. So I'm going to predict, or I'm going to look at the games that way. Jake mentioned the Clemson game later in the season. I believe it's the second to last game. It's in Clemson. That's a bigger game for North Carolina than I think Clemson. I think Clemson will be rocking and rolling at that point. If North Carolina is going to hang around, that's going to be a tough game. They're not going to be favored to win that game. Likely they won't win that game, but we're talking about big games. That is their opportunity to jump back in this thing. You go on the road and you beat Clemson. You got one more game to go. It's looking good for possibly getting the championship and maybe a rematch against Clemson or FSU. So let's go to FSU. I think so. That's one of my three contenders. Next we go to FSU, who I think is for sure a contender this year. They've really stepped it up in the last couple of years, especially recruiting wise. I think that FSU, I don't have a singular game for FSU, but I look at the last third of their schedule, the last three or four. They play Pittsburgh, they play Miami, Northern Alabama. That's going to be a win. but then they play at Florida. That yes, Florida we think could potentially be down. We'll talk about the SEC another time, but that's still not an easy win going into Florida. And then, like I said, Miami, who again has struggled a little recently. That's never an easy game. And then you got Pittsburgh, who's always been a solid team. So FSU, they have the recruiting, they got their high ranking. Are they going to stick in it? We'll see. That's going to be a very important stretch for FSU. I know they play Clemson earlier in the year. That's important too. But these later games really, really matter. You could ask Jake about his 2017 Miami team. You know, they beat the teams they had to beat, and then they lost to Pittsburgh. So the later stretch really matters. In the last one, the other big contender, of course, is Clemson. I think the game, and I know Jordan, and we talked about that, the games we should pick should be conference games. And that's true, but I think Clemson is the favorite. So when you're the favorite, you look at who could potentially take away. Again, will this affect the standings in the ACC? No, but that Notre Dame game is always very important for Clemson. They got Notre Dame coming to Clemson, and that's a big game because Clemson has been able, usually outside of that one game in 2020 when Clemson lost at Notre Dame in the regular season, but then they went back to beat them in the ACC championship. That's always a very important game for Clemson. They're on their home field versus Notre Dame. If they can put together a good showing there, really beat Notre Dame handily, I think that'll give them some good momentum. So Clemson's the front runner, so I don't have a game against the ACC specifically for them, but I do think that Notre Dame game, just for momentum purposes, is pretty big. But anyways, any other games? I think we're good, guys. Or
I think I think the most underrated game here. I think the most underrated game here is Clemson Duke on September 4th, because for Clemson it's kind of a quote unquote roadblock early on, but and because Duke is a very good football team, it's not a game to be slept on. If you're Clemson, they could very easily lose that game.
100%. Okay, which actually brings me to what I'm excited to talk about is the championship predictions this in the ACC. I'm going to start with you, Jordan, again. Who's going to make it? Who's going to win?
All right, so this might just be the easy answer or just taking the easy way out, but I got Florida State Clemson meeting up in Charlotte, and I think Clemson ends up taking the ACC crown.
Jake?
I'm gonna go the same route as Jordan. I'm gonna go Clemson, Florida State, but I'm actually gonna go the other way. I think Florida State actually takes it. And I know that's weird coming from my Miami fan, but I gotta respect FSU here.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with the field, but that's because I'm going out on a limb. That's how Jordan says it perfectly when he says that's the likely outcome, and that's a very reasonable outcome. Especially Jordan just told me before the show that the ACC doesn't have divisions anymore, so that tremendously swings it in Florida State's favor. But that stretch I talked about with FSU, we haven't. Yes, they're widely talented. They're a top 10 to 15 program. We haven't seen this. I understand I'm going out on a little bit of a limb. I'm going to take Clemson over Duke in the ACC championship game. And yes, Jordan just talked about the Duke game earlier on. He was talking about that's important. I don't think Duke's going to come super great to play. That's opening week. They're going to be at home, of course, but, Clemson's Clemson. I think Clemson's going to have a good game. People are going to count out Duke, but Duke has been solid. And I think they were 9-4 last year. I don't remember if they won their bowl game or not. They have been solid. They used to be a joke of a program. They've been building. They've been solid. FSU, of course, you got to watch out for. I'm going to take Duke. I think they'll lose that opening week against Clemson. People will forget about them. They're going to get hot. I don't think I think Clemson will win the championship game comfortably. I think really this is Clemson's redemption year arc. Everyone's talking about Georgia and Alabama. Clemson's trying to say, wait, don't forget about us. But I'm going to take Clemson over Duke in a little bit of an upset. I think they'll go on a run. So that leads us to the last thing we wanted to. Oh, actually, yeah. Anything else?
Yeah, let's get. I was actually just going to continue with Evan. Let's get to win or loss totals. So, Sportsbook has Miami at 7.5 wins. Jordan, are you taking the over or are you taking the under?
I am going to take the over there. I think that Miami should win at least 8 games this year. You look at the schedule, and right off the top of my head, you got to think that, well, Miami plays both Florida State and Clemson this year. You have to make room let's just say both of those are losses for the sake of argument. Um, how many how many more teams can you pick Miami to lose to? They also play at NC State. They play North Carolina. They play Texas A&M at home. And yes, I know Texas A&M was a joke last year, but the talent's there for the Aggies. Can Miami win two of those three games that I mentioned? Um,
Yeah. I'm gonna take the over too. I think that Miami's the whole college football world needs Miami to take a step forward because believe it or not, and I don't think y'all will disagree with me. College football is better when Miami's good.
college
Yeah, if it was
football,
the 90s maybe, but yeah, or early 2000s. Yeah. I
So I
that's a
gotta take
tough
the over on that.
that's a
college
tough line.
football, college
Go ahead,
football is
Jared.
definitely better when these programs are good. You know, Miami, USC, Texas.
Nebraska.
When these programs are good, the historic ones, college football is better to watch and enjoy.
Yeah.
That means the Ivy League's got to return, anyways. But I okay, so 7.5. I was specifically staying away from this line, but since Jake is a Hurricanes fan, I will pick this one. I was specifically staying away from predicting this one. I think because that's tough because Miami is a decent team, but to me, they haven't shown that they're ready to compete for a championship. They went 3-5 in conference play last year. I understand it's not, it's not last year, but the ACC is really good this year. Like Jordan said, they're going to have some difficult opinions. I see them getting 7 wins. I see them barely getting under, but that's a really tough line. But Jordan, did you have any other specific lines that you wanted to touch on? And then we'll go to Jake and then back to me.
There is Louisville's win total is over under 8, and that schedule is very friendly to the Cardinals.
Jake says
So
under. Yep. But
you're going under, Jake? Why?
Under
Why?
Louisville is not a good football team, and they just lost. They just lost their quarterback, so taking the under.
Jordan, what do you say?
So I'm going to go over with Louisville actually. So the schedule, they actually avoid playing Clemson. They avoid playing Florida State if I remember right. And I believe they don't play North Carolina either. But they do play Miami. I know that. So the schedule sets up very nicely for them to win 9, 10 games. So I'm taking the over.
Any other ones, Jordan?
Um, Duke's over under win total is 6, believe it or not. And
I saw 6.5 on one, but yeah, 6 and 8, yeah.
6, yeah. Where I looked, it was 6.
Okay, fair enough.
That I feel like that might be the easiest bet in the country right there to take Duke over 6.
Jake agrees.
A very, very good football team last
Yes,
year.
I
They
do.
were a very good football team last year, and they return a lot, including a really good quarterback, Riley Leonard. Um,
He's
yeah.
gonna be the solid rock for that Blue Devils team this year.
All right, Jake, do you have any more that you'd like to share over on
Yeah, I got a
win
couple.
totals?
I got a couple here. Virginia. I think this is one of the easiest bets of the year. I saw one sportsbook have Virginia at over under 3.5 wins. I think that's gonna be the easiest bet of the year to go the over on Virginia.
I
What
agree.
do
I
you
think
think about that, man?
they got a new coach. I agree. I think that's a good bet. Yeah, he's the second year, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I got Syracuse over under 6.5 wins. I'm taking the under on that one. I don't think, I mean, me and Jordan talked about it before the show. We don't think Syracuse is a good football team. We just, they have a lot of things to show out there. So, I'm taking the under.
Okay. So the two I wanted to go over, two lesser, more bottom of the barrel conference teams. I think you look at Boston College, I saw them 5.5, over under 5.5. I think they will probably be under. I agree with Jake with the finger. You look at their schedule. They should beat UConn. Hopefully they beat UConn. They should beat Holy
Hopefully.
Cross, but Holy Cross is a very good FCS team. Do not sleep on Holy Cross. And then they have Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois can be solid sometimes. I don't even consider that a for sure win. So say you win 2 out of 3 of those, right? Maybe they win 3 out of 3. But then you look at the rest of the schedule. Do you see 3 or 4 more ACC wins for them? I do not. Or remember, over 5.5. So they have to get 6. Boston College has to be bowl eligible to hit this over. I do not see that in the tough ACC this year. They will be under 5.5. And then the other one I want to talk about is one that was already discussed. It was Duke. I saw it at 6.5, but I believe it was at 6 too, just like Jordan said. To me, that seems like a good over. They were 9, and I understand they only count regular season. They were 9-4 last year. This is just saying, can they get a winning record? I think yes, because I predict them to go to the championship. But yes, I would say with Jordan that's a good one. That's a good one. They will go over 6 or 6.5. And I think that's going to do it from us this week. We will be back next week with another conference. Remember, if we didn't get to enough about a team, comment something. We will give you an in-depth reaction.